Hello and welcome to my video, second video in 2 days if everything goes according to plan. If you watched yesterday's video, you'll probably remember that several things went wrong. Picture kept slipping back and someone came to trim the hedge and I had to stop for a while and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, let's hope today's better. I think I gave the wrong measurements yesterday. The picture is actually 7 3/4 inches that way. I think you see, I'm sort of, I guess you could say, dyslexic with numbers. Other people would say completely thick, but yeah, I just don't get numbers. Anyway, that's as near as heck 8 inches, and the width. Let me see. Sorry, I'm probably in the way. I'll edit this bit out. Maybe 12 inches, 15 3/4 wide. I think I gave completely the wrong measurement yesterday. Anyway, never mind. Doesn't matter. It's that big. So now the thing that happened, I noticed. I painted the picture and it's fine. Seems to be going okay on YouTube. But there's this one particular area of the painting. Now, this is a small area. This is from that point there to this point here is only that much between my fingers. That's far more accurate for me to give a measurement like that than actual numbers. Anyway, I like that area of the painting so much, I'm going to paint something like what you're seeing now from scratch. And we'll just see what happens. Okay, so off we go. Now, the reason I'm choosing this part of the painting, apart from the fact that I like it, is that I put it on Facebook yesterday, just as a detail, and the response I got from that was actually very good. So, you know, you've got to read the signs, and I did some reading. So let's see. It's going to be, as I said, this is going to one of my patrons, and starting off with the people who actually attend the Zoom classes, and then once I've given them, they're like a regular bunch of people. Once I've given them their paintings, I'll start working through the other patrons. So I think this is going to be a simple one. It's just a hill, a little bit of landscape on you know, a bit of what I call well, it's all landscape. A little bit of perspective, a little bit where I can sort of show how to do perspective. So this is one plane, and this will turn into a further away plane. And I don't mean an aeroplane. So let's just get some textures on there, a bit of land. As usual, I'm, you know, not using so much oil that it drips. It's just enough to make it mobile. So I'll just prattle on about a few things. One thing that I am enjoying at the moment, I mentioned it yesterday, is that I now have Starlink. Now, Starlink, some people actually asked, what is Starlink? I'm quite surprised about that because I thought everyone on the planet knew about it. It's Elon Musk's satellite system for the internet. And whatever you may think of Elon Musk, this satellite internet system is changing my life because the video that I uploaded yesterday, I think, took about 55 minutes as opposed to 24 hours. So you can see where I'm coming from on that. So yeah, that one's up really fast. It's the only time, I think, that I've ever produced a video of that sort of length. I mean, I could do a 10-minute video in a day and get that uploaded, but no problem. But I think it was about 43 minutes, 43 maybe, yep. To do that in 55 minutes is just unheard of. It's absolutely incredible. I know there are much more incredible things going on the planet, but to me that was quite a game changer. So let's get some sky. Let me see, what shall we use? Right, nice new brush. So the sky, now if you remember, I'll put that back on the screen so you can see what it looked like. It's got some quite interesting colours in it. Now at the moment, this is all very green. That's going to change. The sky has got ultramarine blue, a little bit of Japanese red and royal blue. Royal blue being the light blue. This one. Make sure you can that focuses. And I think we'll start out with something very similar to yesterday. So Japanese red mixed in with a bit of royal blue. And I think we'll just sort of put it down on the, put it up in the air. Just anywhere, it doesn't matter. The stage, who cares? Okay, now what I'm not doing, it looks as though I am, the shape of the sky mustn't follow the shape of the hill. I'm not actually doing that. What I'm doing is just trying to keep the colours clean at the moment. So I think we might bring that down now right up to the edge. Now you'll see that there is a bit of a difference in the tone and strength of colour, but I want it to be close at the moment. I don't want anything to be really light. I want to add the light later. So this is just the, well, I don't even know that it's the planning stage because I'm not really planning anything. I've just got an idea. So I'm going to have a little bit of ultramarine to the top. People, I mentioned yesterday that, you know, I asked a question. I said, do you want me to talk while I'm painting? Majority, well, everybody said, yeah, talk. But it always makes me laugh. Whenever I upload a video, you get a page on YouTube for analytics. You can see what's happening to the video, where people are that are looking at it, even what device they're using. And but I notice every time I put up a video, I always get someone who cancels their subscription. And I'm not sure what's causing that. Now, either I'm a complete pain in the rear, and they don't notice it to start with, and then after I put up a few videos, they decide, oh, it's enough of him. Don't know what it is, but there's always one cancellation, sometimes 2 or 3, usually no more than that. But quite strange little phenomenon. Okay, so let's get a little bit. I've added a bit of white here. This line that I've made with the sort of grassy stuff is flexible. That will be moving about all over the place. Just get a bit of white. In fact, I might even need to get another palette. I use paper palettes, which are actually quite good, but I'm down to the minimum here. So I'm just going to put some streaks in, could be, you know, because clouds are made out of multiple layers. Even if it's a blue sky with white fluffy clouds, there are different layers of tone and light and reflection. So let's start building up those before I put the sort of surface sky on. So here we go, down to the ground. Push the two together. Some people really find that hard to do because they feel they're messing their painting up. Don't worry about it. You have to do it. You've got to mess it up to start with to get the effects. Now at the moment this is a really boring composition. So I need to sort of try and make it a little bit more interesting. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find another brush to ruin. Let me see, which one can I... Whose turn is it? So there's different ways of making texture on land. You can use paper, or you can use a dry. This has got some colour on it, but it's actually a dry brush. So I can use this up and down like that to get various effects. I can drag it sideways like that, which will give me a hill with the beginnings of a wood on the top of the hill. Not sure I want that, but we'll see. You can dig the corner in and keep pushing it like that to get lighter bits. All kinds of things you can do. And of course, with paper, you can take away paint, which is what I think I might do just here. But take it away and then drag it down to make interesting transitions, I suppose, actually in the hill. It's not going to be a cliff type thing, it's just going to be just a hill. Looks a bit cliffy, but that's not intentional. I've taken away paint because I want to add another colour. I want to get a bit of blue actually into the green. So let's just put it on there. Like so. With a little bit of ultramarine as well. Just let that sit for a minute while I figure out what to do next. Okay, same deal, same brush. As I said, it's just stained. That's not particularly wet paint. There's a bit of green on it, but the underlying brown, well, maybe you can't see it, but anyway, it's sort of brownish, is ingrained in the brush. What I didn't use yesterday, and it's one of my favourite colours, is some Payne's Grey. I might use some Payne's Grey today. Interesting. I've got a boulder. Gone. Don't worry about things like that. That's not even slightly important at the moment. The effect I'm trying to get here is side of a hill where there's a deep shadow. It's not very deep at the moment. I'm going to in-deepen it, if that's even a word. Probably isn't. So now let's put this colour back onto that. You have to think of painting as you're not actually producing a mountain. What you're doing is making paint look like it, if that makes sense. Once you detach yourself from too much detail, I'm going to make the top of that look slightly more interesting. I think that needs something up there. And then a few sort of strange marks that will look like something. That's all I can say, really. There are some things starting to appear. So what can we do now in the sky? I'm going to get a bit more red in it. Okay, so this is going sort of quite purpley now. And I think we'll have that there. See that green mark that was going up in the sky? You remember I said it's not important? It isn't. It's not at all important, because paint at this stage can be moved and manipulated and shoved around all over the place. And but the trick is just don't add too much paint. This is very, very minimal amount of paint here. Okay, so we've got the start of a sort of slightly interesting cloud. And I think now I'm going to do a little bit of wiping. Let me just remind you, in case you're still here, I don't know whether you've come and gone, who knows. But yeah, I'm giving these to my patrons because I think it's, you have to give something back. Plus, I enjoy doing this, and I actually like giving things away. Because I know that there are people out there that really want to paint but are struggling, and the reason they're struggling, I've found over the years, is that nobody's really told them exactly what they need to do. They might have got some information from some places, like school or... but they don't really, unless you go to art school, or unless you have a tutor that's dedicated to teaching you, you're not going to sort of know everything. In fact, none of us will know everything, but it's always, I don't know how to put it really. I think there are ways to describe to people on how to do certain things, and one of the things all my life I've always felt this is that I went to a lot of schools when I was growing up. It's about 8, I think, because we moved a lot. My father was a Air Force pilot, and he flew after the war. And eventually went into aircraft engineering, and anyway, but the point is, I went to a lot of schools, and I hated every minute of school. From the first time I went to school, I thought, what on earth, what is my parent doing to me, leaving me in this vile place? Really didn't like it. It was like, not just, oh, I'm uncomfortable here, I just detested school. I would have probably been a good candidate for homeschooling, I think. Anyway, the point I'm trying to get to is that when I was always felt that I was taught the wrong way. Now, that's not me being big-headed or arrogant or anything like that. I just thought that the teachers weren't explaining things to me, and I'm sure that's because they had a way, particularly in those days, because I'm getting on a bit now. I'm 71 now. Schools were totally different then. And I always felt that things weren't explained the way I wanted them to be explained to me. So that's what I try to do. I explain to people the way I would have liked things to have been explained to me. And so the other thing also, a lot of younger people don't realise, but in a lot of schools, now I've got nothing against teachers, some very good teachers around, and I'm sure there were when I was younger. I just didn't actually get to meet many of them. But if you didn't quite get what the teacher was saying to you in, I hate saying this, the old days, you would be ridiculed and made to stand, literally just stand in a corner. I never had to do that, but I mean, it was that sort of culture, quite brutal. So anyway, so when I teach, I like to explain absolutely everything and ask the student questions. They ask me questions, but I also ask them questions like, do you want me to do this bit? Do you want me to show you how to do that bit? Did I make that bit clear to you? And I find it works. That's what people, they want to be given the space to learn in their own time and in their own way. Not everyone is good at sitting in a class and just learning stuff parrot fashion. So, yeah, there we go. My little rant for the day. So I'm going to start putting the sky in now. Now, most of the sky, it's quite a very simple painting, obviously, this. Most of the sky is going to be done with a palette knife. So I just got to choose which one I want to use. I have such a scope. I think we'll start with a biggish one. And just a reminder, I think I said this on on most of my videos. When I use white, I don't add oil. It's just white, straight from the tube. So I think we'll start with a bit of cloud right next to the hill. I've always liked that effect. And I did it in the one I showed you earlier, which I'll put on the screen now again. So particularly this area here. And let me think, maybe I should try standing the other side of the painting. Maybe that'll help. It might. The only trouble is that my palette is over the other side there, but anyway. Okay, so let's get some white up here, so, some cloud. Right next to the hill. So that's the beginning. Now, I think if I move my palette, I won't need to keep going back and forth. Okay, so remember what I said about the top of the hill? The shape that I made was not important because that changes. So as you can see, as I'm pushing the cloud into the top of the hill, it's altering the shape. Now this looks like a very precarious way to make clouds, and it is, because it's all down to knowing when to stop and knowing that you've got the right feeling that you wanted in the sky. So I don't know what the sky will look like. I haven't drawn any cloud shapes, which I've always thought is a bit of a waste of time. Well, for me anyway. Not everybody, you know, I've got to keep saying this. Not everyone's the same. I don't want to draw the clouds and then paint them. I'd rather paint them, drawing them, like so. And they come out really quite exciting sometimes. And until I stop working on the clouds, what I'm doing here is unimportant. I'm just applying paint. Right, I'll tell you what, I've got an idea. I'm always trying to make better videos. I'm not, funnily enough, a natural video maker. I've mastered the editing software, and I've managed to master the editing out of me coughing, sneezing, that sort of stuff. But things like my choice of music, I have this particular bit of music that I start a lot of my videos with now, and in fact this one, the music at the beginning and the end, is the only bit of music that I've ever actually paid for. I usually use music from the YouTube library, which is free, and let me put it this way, it sounds free. Okay, I think you know what I mean by that. There are a few bits of music that aren't too bad, but they're rare, quite rare. And what I want to know is, do you like the music that I'm using, or do you find it irritating, or is it dull? It could be dull, you know. You've got to realise that I'm from a certain era. I don't particularly like electronic music much. So, you know, this is not the subject for bouncy pop music, really, is it? Let's face it. This is slightly more sedate. And I say that with a lot of confidence, because when I look at the age groups of people who watch my videos, it tends to be the slightly older person, which is fine. So yeah, let me know about the music. I like it personally. I find it really quite moody. And I like moody paintings, and I like music that evokes some kind of emotion. In fact, sometimes before I start painting, I listen to a playlist that I've got put together, which has tunes and songs on it that an awful lot of people nowadays might not have even heard of. But I like them, and they put me in a sort of frame of mind to start painting. It's almost like self-hypnosis. And even though some of the bits of music may be a little bit sad, I find that helps too, because it's just getting into the a slightly, for want of a better word, slightly emotional state. I like the music to evoke a feeling. So this sky, I couldn't tell you what the colours are. Well, I can tell. We've got ultramarine, royal blue, white, and Japanese red, and it gives you all these interesting colours. This sort of browny, strange, very dark purple colour is quite nice. And so yeah, my skies tend to evolve the way real skies evolve. Does that make sense? In other words, it's sort of moving around all over the place until they settle on a position, I suppose. Right, so that's sort of quite interesting. So the clouds coming down, touching the top of the hill almost there. In a moment, I might zoom in. I didn't zoom in at all yesterday when I made my video. I might zoom in down here when I do the perspective part, because that, I think, is sometimes of interest to people. So all I'm doing, not adding any other fancy colours to this. It's just palette knife with white, and then just sort of seeing what happens. Let's have one of them there, because they're always nice, aren't they? Or is it? It's one of them. There we go. Now, the paint is quite lumpy and bumpy. I might give it a quick sweep with a dry brush, but when I do this, the brush needs to be quite soft. I have one left over from yesterday. Just trying to find. Oh, here we are. So this is a sky brush. I always keep the sky brush as clean as possible. I don't. Just a reminder: I don't use turpentine. Don't use anything really. These brushes are so cheap. It's more detrimental to the planet if I wash it than if I just recycle. So they get recycled. They're so cheap, they are barely holding together, let's put it that way. Bristles do come out, but that's not much of a problem. So this part is very, very light to touch. I don't want to change too much on the sky, because actually it looks sort of okay. It's got some nice dramatic-y bits in there. So I'm just going to just barely touch it. I wonder if you can even see. I think you probably can. Yeah, I never know until I finish making the video. Oh yeah, I was talking about videos earlier. Yeah, the weird thing is, I struggle to make my own videos, but I was able to direct photo shoots and occasionally film way back when I was working in ad agencies and things like that. No problem telling other people what to do. But me figuring out what's best for my videos doesn't come so easy. But anyway, there we go. So turning this occasionally because I don't want, for instance, there's dark blue there, there's a mauvey colour here. I don't want to ruin the mauvey colour, so I'll find the bit of the brush that's got the least amount of paint on it just to smooth that bit there really quickly. Just, oh, that's interesting. Little line, how does that look? Yeah, well, we don't want contrails, but I'll just break it slightly. Okay, that's not so bad. Right, so I think that might be it for the sky. So do skies take a long time to paint? I don't know, do they? That didn't. So there's my hill. There's the bit here now. Right, this is another little fun bit. So I'm going to chuck some of this down here so that I forget where I've put it. Always happens. So perspective. Let's see what we can do with perspective. Now, this is again one of these things that's easy, but people who don't know how to do it find it difficult. Same as everything, really. I am not a good concert pianist for multiple reasons. I have no ear for music. I can't play the piano. I can't read music. And don't particularly want to. In another life, maybe. But perspective. Right, so there we are. We've got just a line at the moment. Now, funnily enough, it works at the moment. It's working with a bit of perspective. But what I want to do is just blur the sky and the land together a bit over there. It's the same thing, except I'm not holding a palette knife. Holding a piece of paper, and I'm just going like that. And if I blur the edge, blurred it, as they get softer, more distance pops up, if you know what I mean. I'm wondering whether to put a hint. Now it looks like there could be C over there, and maybe I'll leave it like that. Maybe that's a desired effect. But I'll put a few distant bumps when I've got rid of this, by turning it into some distant bumps. There we are, there's a few bumps on the top of that hill. You can't really see it. I'm actually fighting the sunlight at the moment. You can probably see a little bit of a sheen there. It's one of these things, you know, I go on about this, but this house is unbelievably difficult to light, so I may have to try and figure out a way of putting something up over the window. Maybe it's okay. I don't think it is though. Right, well that was interesting. I've swiveled the room around a little bit, so to speak, and we'll just see how that goes. I think it's slightly better anyway. Now, down here, I've also, while I've been doing that, thinking about, do I want it to look like C? I don't really think I do. So I think I'm going to put in a few distant hills. Before I do the distant hills, I'm going to show you this other thing I do sometimes, which involves using my finger to make clouds. And I really like this. It's, you know, there's different types of cloud. When a cloud is like a cumulus nimbus way in the distance near the horizon, quite often they're just sort of little tiny bobbly things. So I'm not worried about the line again, because I'm working on the clouds. So let's see if we do that. That, believe it or not, is the beginning of a distant line of clouds. So let's just go for it. Let's just put them in very quickly, just little sort of round, blobby, circly things, like so. cleaning your hand every time. So I've got fresh paint on my finger because I want some little crisp highlight things in there like that every now and then. Just, I'm not like, it's not like, you know, cloudland down there. It's just a hint of the fact that there are still clouds, that the clouds don't just end when I finish painting them. I'm going to put a little bit there too. Hopefully I'll lose the sea effect. I like the sea, but I just don't want it in this painting at the moment. Let's just take that over there a bit. Okay. So those, believe it or not, are slightly low-lying, distant clouds. And I think there should be one against the hill. Now for that, I won't use my hand. I will use a palette knife. And which one should we use? Let's use this one. It's not going to be a lot. It's just, I just like these little sneaky bits of cloud that poke out next to something that's dark. Like that there. Not quite the effect I want. Let's try a little bit more paint. You see now, if you're a beginner and you think, oh, you know, you've been wondering for years, that's better, that's more like what I want. You've been holding back for years thinking, you know, I'd really like to paint, but I can't draw. And to be an artist, you've got to be able to draw. Well, actually, you don't. Painting and drawing don't necessarily have to go together. That's heading the way I want it now. Good. You see, to do this is totally different from the traditional idea of an artist, where they sit in a studio and they're drawing a vase of flowers or naked people or whatever. This is totally different. I did all that at college because it's, well, colleges do that, you know. But it was particularly useful for later in my career, before computers came along, where you had to imagine a human being sitting on a chair and make a good drawing of said human being sitting on a chair. But you have to understand how the human body works. That's the reason they do all that stuff. At the time, I thought it was just a bit unnecessary, personally, because I didn't want to do anything like that. I mean, I was going to be a commercial artist, and I ended up as a commercial artist. But, you know, my main interest was painting. So, right, so there's a little bit of light cloud right next to the hill there, and I might leave that for a moment while I just think about it. Not totally sold on the idea, but it's sort of okay. Now I've got some. What have I got? I've got sap green, a little bit of royal blue chucked in. I'm just going to try a little experiment. Well, it's not really an experiment, done it before, but not much paint on here. And all I'm going to do is re-establish the distance stuff. So let's just put some marks on there, just to level the horizon out a bit. And then push it into the sky, very quickly coming across and ending like so. Okay, so it's starting to give the illusion of a little bit of distant Hillary. Okay. Coming along okay. In fact, I might leave that now. I don't think I need to do anything to it. Now, the only other thing I'm going to do, and then this one is pretty well done, although I might go back to the hill just to get some textures in there, but I just want to put a bit of light on the ground. Now, I could get light on the ground using paper just by scraping across like so. I'll just show you a little bit of that. I'm sure you've seen it all before. And maybe that's why I occasionally lose subscribers. But I want a little bit of light just there. Okay, so the light is hitting that little bit of land. I've just done something that I always tell people not to do. It's got a bit of an arc and it's coming down. I don't like lines that go down off the edge of a picture because the human eye will follow it. And so I'll just lift that up a bit, like so. Right, so that's one way of doing it, and it's sort of quite successful. And I'm just going to extend it here slightly. Right, that's that. And the other thing is to just get some white, some light green, which is what I'm going to do now. And just a bit on the palette knife. So there's a bit of light green. And where should we put that? Let's just put it here. We've got an extra bit of bright sky there, so maybe we should echo that here. So it's lighting up the ground a bit. Let me think, how am I going to do this? I'm going to go there. And then pull it across and see what happens to it as it loses strength. Oh yes, that's pretty cool. Like that. Quite a nice effect. Very simple, you see, because I'm not actually painting anything. I'm just putting down some colours. We've got all this texture here. What do I want to do with that? Well, it looks quite nice as it is with these lines in it. Looks as though it might have been ploughed at some time. So I think what I'll do, I'll just have a few little tiny little highlighty things, like ridges. Just to give it a little bit more twinkle. And let's move the camera slightly. Right, so over this side, I think, again, a bit more light green. While I'm doing this, I'll tell you about what's happening in a few days. I've got in case you've decided you'd like to attend, this coming weekend, you'll find a link below in the box. I'm doing a 2-day event on John Constable, English painter. If you don't know what he's done, Google him. You may know, when you see his very famous painting that he did called the Hay Wain. Hay Wain is a type of wagon, and that's Wain, W-A-I-N, Hay Wain, John Constable. Have a look at that. Amazing painting. It's in the National Gallery in London, and a few years ago I was there, and I got special permission to put my camera right up against the painting and get some good close-ups to show you the sort of texture. You won't see this unless you have a source to, get. Well, maybe that's wrong. Maybe you can find them on the web. Anyway, the point I'm trying to get at is I did some really good close-ups to show how he went about his paintings. So I decided that this retreat that I'm going to do is going to be all about John Constable and his oil sketches, which are quite incredible. Oil sketch meaning, I mean, this would be classed as an oil sketch pretty well, I suppose. Something that's not necessarily entirely finished, but it's downright fascinating. Yeah, that sort of sums it up, really. They're incredible. His sketches are just out of this world. So I'm going to show you how I would go about it and also talk about how I believe he went about it. So it may be interesting, it may not. You may not be interested at all. But if you are, it'd be nice if you came along. It's not awfully expensive, 2 days. The link to the booking site will tell you, the price, and also it'll give you the time it starts in your time zone. Clever little bit of software works it all out. Because I tell you what, I found that I don't understand the American time zones. You've got so many different time zones. In England, but although I'm in France, same in France, we have one time zone, and it's called now. And keeps it simple. But in America, of course, you've got, what have you got? You've got, I don't know what you've got, but you've got all kinds of different time zones, which my wife has tried explaining to me, I think. She's an American. I still don't get it, though. Okay, so there's a few little bit of fieldy things going up the side of the hill, and I think we might stop soon. So yeah, anyway, right, if you want to come to that, it'd be delightful to have you there. You can ask me questions and paint along with me, or just watch. Entirely up to you. Now, I just got to do this because it's sort of crying out for it. There are some streaks in there that I think are really interesting. Now, they're quite subtle on the video. I mean, I can see them in my viewfinder, so maybe you can too. But I just want to sort of very carefully, so carefully, in fact, nothing's happening. That happens occasionally when you've got wet paint and you're trying to get something on it. Yeah, it's just picking up. It's picking up rather than putting down. So I'm just going to reload my palette knife. Okay, so it's sort of, it's showing up a bit more. I just want to sort of enhance those marks a little bit. There we go, that's what we want. Just hardly anything, it's just, there we are. Just adds a little bit of interest into the texture of the hill. And I think that's it. So there we go, right, all the usual waffle. So I do Zoom classes, link below. If you want to be a patron and possibly own one of these, please be a patron. It's not down to how much you donate. It's just the fact that you're a patron. So don't feel that you have to donate thousands and thousands of euros or dollars or whatever. It's just that once you're a patron, your name goes on the list, and you'll get picked one day, hopefully. And that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I have actually. I think this producing a video a day is going to be really interesting for me. So there's the entire picture, and as you can see, it didn't take very long. Quite easy, quick to do. If I can do it, you can do it. So thanks for being here, and bye for now.